Thank you for auditing the Always Positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who wasn't going to do a video today. I've done videos 5 days in a row, but I am compelled to do a video today on the new song by Stromae, Santé, S-A-N-T-E. He is, if not my favorite, one of my favorite artists alive right now. He hasn't released an album in 8 years, and I had no idea he was coming out with a new song. In fact, my homepage on the internet is Le Monde, the French newspaper, and I happened to see in just a little tiny note, Stromae releases a new song. And I was thinking about it, could I possibly be more excited? Would I be more excited if there was a new Daft Punk album? Probably not. A new Radiohead album? Probably not. This might be the most excited I could possibly be for a musician. And that's not just as a French professor who appreciates the fact that he sings in such good French and that my students love him, but as a lover of music and culture. So this review of this single song, look at the runtime. It's like a 3-minute song. This video is going to be at least 3 times that. It's going to be a breakdown of the music, a breakdown of the lyrics, a breakdown of the music video, and a small grammar lesson. Because Stromae is so useful for professors of French like us. It's so rich, but the thing is, and this is true of his last album as well, Stromae songs are like albums. They're so full, they're so dense, there's so much to them. This is like a rap song, it's a pop song, it's filled with cumbia rhythms, the Colombian music. I can't quite do the cumbia rhythms, but that's the South American rhythm that you hear here. All of this mixed in with a form of pop social realism at its core, about the working class, about the people under the foot of our consumer capitalist society, right? All of this is all wrapped up in this one short little song by a genius who is returning to music after I thought he would stop. I thought he was done. I thought he was such a perfectionist. I thought that he Brian Wilsoned his way into obscurity, that he just couldn't release another album after releasing a perfect album. So let's talk about this song, right? Musically. So first we'll talk about the music. He seems to be sort of in his mode that he was in Racine Carré, sort of world music mode. He had that song Ave Caesarea, de Caesarea Evora. Here we have mandolins interacting with what sounds like a guitar as well. The voice comes in, and then eventually that cumbia rhythm starts settling. These nice claps and this kind of dirty synthesizer line that at first I thought was like a whistle. But I now realize it's actually more like a traditional flute instrument that is played with cumbia music, the gaita. I think that's what it's supposed to sound like, this kind of weird synth that's all the way throughout here. And the great thing about this rhythm is it's got this stutter step to it. So yeah, it's a pop song, and we'll be dancing to it, and it'll be an international hit like most of his stuff. But just like his other hits, just like Papa Ute, is a great piece of African music, this is like a great piece of cumbia music. Then it leads into the chorus, the first chorus, where we have some of the woof sounds that he's kind of famous for, on the 1, 2, 3, 4, these kind of woof sounds in the back, and then these light little whistles, right? Actual whistling. Just these little tiny production details that make Stromae's music so special, because when you are a fanatic, like I am and like my children are, and you listen to these songs thousands of times, those little whistles, not yet, but in a month, in 2 months, in 10 years, that's going to be a little bit that brings you back and just makes you santé. I can't wait to talk about the lyrics. And then we have this traditional post-chorus, the hook, right? He's able to write these post-choruses, this really just dirty synth break with these great stilted rhythms. Again, reminds you of Papa Ute, where it's just the part where you're just going to be dancing and just out of your mind. And again, I believe the synthesizer lead, this kind of flute-sounding thing, is supposed to represent a gaita. I believe. I don't know. I don't know that much about world music. I don't know that much about Colombian music. I don't know that much about cumbia, which I think some people also claim is from Mexico. If you know more than I do, which you very well might, please put it in the comments, okay? The best comment that talks about this song in relationship to cumbia music, I will pin, okay? We're not even at the second verse yet. The second verse yet, he switches up his vocals completely, goes from singing in the first verse into a kind of rap style, this like perfect cadence that he has and just the divine tone of his voice, which leads into the second chorus, which is different from the first. The instrumentation's different. Do I hear some accordion in there? We do hear some accordion in there, another trademark of cumbia music. And like the drums sound somehow like dirtier, sound a little bit more like almost like hand drums being played in the other room. Then the post-chorus hook comes back. The thing about Stromae is he writes these very intelligent songs, he writes these very smart songs, but he also knows that he has to get things to get you hooked, to get you dancing. And that's what this post-chorus, right now, I'm talking to you, right? You hear me. But in my head, all I hear is dun 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 dun. I'm just hearing the song. I listened to the song 20 times in the last hour. I cannot get that damn post-chorus out of my head. The bridge is maybe the least interesting part of the song. He takes out the synth leads and just has that kind of guitar and mandolin in the back, and he's singing. It's backed up with some interesting, almost like a chorus of just these certain words that are repeated over and over again. And it has sort of like a Doppler effect going on with the mandolins, kind of getting closer and further from you, and then leads into the next chorus with no drums. A great example of dynamics on the song where there's no drums on this chorus, but that leads into that post-hook, right? Into that post-chorus hook where you know it's going. You know that's what's going on in my head. Right now I got that song stuck in my head. Ba-da-da-da-da. That's what I got going in my head, and that's how they do it. And that leads into the outro, which is a lot like a verse, but just to emphasize the meaning of the song with the outro. So let's get to the meaning of the song. What's the subject of this song? It is a compassion anthem. How about that? If you don't know, compassion is the most important trait a human being can hold, right? It's basically the universal of all religions throughout all humanity is that the most important thing you can have is compassion. If you don't know the origin of it, the word passion means suffer and come means with. So it literally is suffering with somebody. That's why it's so important. That's why when a society loses its compassion, it fails. It fails the people, it fails itself, it crumbles. It may stand for something, but what it stands for cannot stand. So this is a compassion anthem. Now let's get into it. Let's start off with the title, Santé. If you're not a Francophone person, if you're not from a French-speaking country, you might not understand this. You might look it up and go, Santé, does that just mean health? It does mean health, but it's also the way they say cheers. Okay, there's two different ways of saying cheers in the French world. Well, there's multiple, but the two main ones are chin chin and santé, which means health. Think of it as like to your health. Apparently, based on my limited research on this goes back to the Middle Ages. People thought that alcohol had medicinal properties, but I think it's an interesting idea. What does it mean that what we say is cheers and what they say is health? It's a different meaning, right? Like different cultures have different meanings. These little words that are repeated over and over again, right? These little words that are said automatically. It's a good idea to actually focus on them and what do they actually mean. When we sneeze, we say, God bless you, right? A pretty far out thing to say, right? In French, they say to your wishes, right? It's like one says something about our society, our overly religious society, and one says something about theirs, right? So this idea of health, what is it? That when we say a cheer, we say to health. The beginning of the song tells you this is a song to those who don't have it. Health to those who don't have it. Now, is this just a COVID anthem? Is this just about people who are sick with COVID? Yes and no. It's a song about the underclass, the mistreated, the working class, the working poor, most specifically. So those are the people who suffered the most directly from COVID. So in each of these examples, when they're talking about these people who are suffering, these workers who are mistreated and forgotten, it is about them in general. But in the concept of COVID, it's also that these are the frontline workers. These are the people who have to keep working. If not, they can't feed their families, and if not, our society can't run. So I think it serves as a universal workers' anthem and as a specific COVID anthem. That's just the title. Now the first verse talks about different characters, right? Just gives different names. Rosa, whenever we mess stuff up, you clean up. Albert, you clean tables. Céline, you work at the coat check. Arlene works in the bathroom. A couple bad puns in there. Céline Batteur, which is a way of saying a bachelor. But what I think is interesting here is the sort of emphasis on Arlene, who works in the bathrooms at the club, right? Because if you don't know, in a lot of countries, and France as well, in a club, there's people who work in the bathrooms. That's their job. They just sit in the bathrooms and they give out mints and whatever, and they make sure it's clean, and they're just there. It's a great symbol in our society that people like that exist. And I think it's an interesting moment that we have here, an international consciousness of that person. Earlier in the album, Dave, we're all alone in this together, he released that album. Dave, the British rapper, had an entire verse dedicated to that person who works in the bathroom. How many of our parents had dreams they abandoned so they could put food on the table? Intelligent, worthy, and able. That's somebody's parent, you know, and that affected the way I see Ish. Nightclub toilet, you peed on the seat, 'cause you don't know how it feels when your mom's gotta clean it. And her boss treats her like she doesn't mean Ish, and she's gotta wait for the bus in the rain, it's freezing. So in both cases, on either side of the channel, you know, in Belgium and in England, we have people who are capable of seeing this person. And not only that, turning that person into a hero. And I understand we live in a society and everything's messed up, and Bill Maher is going to tell you that all these millennials are garbage and all that, and all they care about is being famous and famous and famous and famous. That is true. We do have a fame problem in our country. But interestingly, in these two songs by international rap superstars, we have a focus on people who are very much not famous. And that's what the song is about. That's what the chorus is about. It's time we celebrate those who don't celebrate. Okay? We should celebrate those who don't celebrate, who don't party. Okay? So it's not just that these people are downtrodden, it's that they're downtrodden and they can't even celebrate. They can't even get a break. They can't even party. They can't even dance. They can't even have something for themselves. So it's time for us to raise our glasses to the unhealthy. And it's not that they're unhealthy by choice, they're unhealthy by circumstance. It's not that they don't celebrate by choice, it's that they don't celebrate by circumstance. And that circumstance is inequality, class oppression, racism, anti-immigration, all these things, right? It's an amazingly socially forward song, but of course, still while I'm talking to you, trying to form all these very intelligent thoughts, I just got the song going on in my head, which is the Stromae effect, right? How can he do it? How can you make a realist pop masterpiece just over and over again? Very few people are capable of writing great realist pop masterpieces. Just happens to be the two of them are from Belgium. Then goes into that. After that chorus, if we celebrate those who don't celebrate, we get to the second verse in which he takes that rap persona. And when he takes the rap persona, he changes perspective. And now he is the privileged person who is upset with the underclass, who is upset with the workers that are not working up to his standards. The metaphorical Karen, right? I want to talk to your manager. The verse actually ends with like, I want to talk to whoever it is that's your boss because I want to get you fired. And it's just this amazing thing because it's another point that we're at in our society. I think we take Dave, we take this, we take that TV show made by Mike White on HBO, White Lotus, which is a very similar thing, right? White Lotus was a very successful TV show, in my opinion. The way it was made had a strong point and illustrated it well, is that it was very much about the people who have to work for the entitled, right? And entitlement and privilege, it poisons your brain. And so he takes on this persona of this person who's super mad at the maid or whoever it is that hasn't cleaned up enough and saying that they need to clean up more. And it's just great to have this little break in perspective because realistically, most of the people listening are going to be in that position. Most of the people listening are not going to be the people who are cleaning the pee off the toilet seat in the club. The majority of people who are listening are the people who are going to be at the club who may or may not pee on the seat, who may or may not take pity on the person who cleaned their room but forgot to clean it properly. We then get to the outro in which he enlarges the scope. He talks about all the people this song is dedicated to, including airline pilots who are often mistreated. I mean, they have a good union, but they're often mistreated. Nurses, truck drivers, flight attendants, bakers, fishermen. And then he expands it even more. Champions of bad hours, like champions of people who have a terrible schedule. Young parents who are rocked by tears. But he uses the term bercé, so he doesn't mean rock, like rock me like a hurricane. He means rock like in a cradle. And people who are insomniacs by trade. Ultimately, it is to all who suffer. And I think it's a beautiful song about people who suffer to the point where they can't celebrate. It's a toast to them. It's a funny song. I think in a way we could pair this fairly nicely with Runaway by Kanye. You know, let's give a toast to the douchebags, you know? This idea of like raising a toast to people who aren't usually celebrated. But I would say this is a much deeper theme because it's less inwardly focused, it's more outwardly focused. And in that way, that's part of the reason why I think Stromae belongs in the French and the Francophone tradition of the chanson, which just means songs, but it's a perspective that you take. Hip-hop artists are very personal. They have a specific perspective that's usually very personal, representing where they're from, whereas singers of the chanson tend to sing more globally about humanity, about global situations. I think that's why Stromae very much belongs in that tradition. He belongs in the tradition of Jacques Brel, perhaps more than he belongs in there with Stromae, Bugsy, Arsenic, or any other great French rappers. But of course, he came up through French rap, and that isn't to say he isn't also a great figure in hip-hop. Before I get to my grammar lesson, which I am way too excited to give you, I have to talk about the video. I have never waited for a video premiere ever in my entire life. I was so excited. I was like my daughter waiting for Billie Eilish. I was like, kept refreshing. I was like watching the countdown. The video delivers on the realist promise of the lyrics. Now, the cover of the song is Stromae like modeling some dance moves, like an old style dance diagram. You know, like it shows like how your hands are supposed to go and how your feet are supposed to go. And it's a little bit confusing. It's a little too many steps. So I was a little bit afraid that this was just going to be a TikTok video where he was going to do the left foot right, right foot left TikTok garbage, right? No. He makes a minimalist, semi-documentary, it feels like, the way it's filmed, of menial workers. Simple filming of simple people in a tough spot in their life. You know, selling watermelons on the side of the road. Reminded me of Serbia, actually. Fishermen, women working in restaurants, waiters, office workers, all races, genders, nationalities. Everybody's there, and it's this wonderful music, and it's a bop, and it's a banger, and all those words that you young people like to use for good music. It's all there. But what you're watching is these people going through of just, you know, having to chop up a duck in the back of a restaurant, you know, or clearing a table when it's really messy, or working in a badly lit office and just sitting down at a desk and having to work, you know? What makes this so great is as the video continues going on, each of the characters gets little indications of how to do this dance. The office worker sees something on the computer. You know, the woman in the restaurant sees something on the TV. Someone else sees a little sign on the door about how to do the dance. And they all just start doing this little dance. Now, I can't do the dance for you. It's not clearly illustrated. There's like 10 different movements, and it's not clearly done. But it's just showing these are the people who are not celebrated. This is a celebration for them. And we get to see them break out just a little bit with these little simple dance moves that I can't really describe to you. That's one of them. So if you're at home, you want to do the Stromae, it's a little bit like that. Now what I love about this, Stromae's been out for 8 years, right? That is a super long time. By the way, eventually on this channel, I'm going to do a video about Racine Carré as one of the 3 best albums of the 2010s, along with 2 other albums released the same year. Music's changed. So he was a master of using YouTube to promote his music and to promote who he was. And now he understands the importance of dancing, right? He understands that every big song has to have a stupid dance that you can do on TikTok. So he takes this kind of narrative and the sort of implied stupidity of the TikTok dance. And because he makes it unclear, because he makes it that the people doing it aren't influencers, it's not even him. You see him for like 5 seconds in the video, but it's not him. It's these Norwegian fishermen, okay? It's these African office workers who are doing this dance, and it's elliptical, and you can't quite see what's happening or what's going there. He's like, actually, I think, using TikTok while commenting on the fascination with this sort of quick fame and the stupidity and how all music can potentially be as stupid as right foot right, left foot left. So hopefully this will turn into some kind of TikTok-y challenge, you know, can you figure out what Stromae's dance is? And this song will get the attention it deserves. I came this close to filming myself watching this video for the first time. I don't do reactions, I do thoughts, okay? I'm glad I didn't, but I did cry while watching the video. Now, I cry a lot. If you watch this channel a lot, you know I'm super in touch with my emotions. Super beta cuck, that's me. But I cried for a couple reasons. One, there's a moment where one of the characters just starts screaming, like she's like doing this dance and screaming. It's the waitress, and the pathos, the compassion that I felt for people in this position. You know, I have a great job. I have great contact with people. I'm treated well. I have a great union. I'm just treated super well. Like the feeling that these lyrics and this video has gotten to me, to seeing this woman dancing, and she's like dancing and she's screaming, and it's clear, okay, she's an actress and somewhere in Brussels, who knows, right? But the character she's playing, this release that she's getting, it was so moving. The meaning of the song was so moving to me that it got to me. But also, Stromae's back. He released a song 3 years ago. He wasn't back. It's okay. Okay song. But it wasn't Stromae. Plein forme. Just there. Just, damn it, he's back. If the whole album is like this, it won't be a radical departure from Racine Carré, but we don't need a radical departure. We just need more. Don't go Brian Wilson. Don't be a perfectionist. If you have to release another Pet Sounds, go for it. You can release 10 more. Stromae is back. So now you can leave the video if you wish, but I promised a French lesson. Dadgummit, you are going to get a French lesson. These are the first lyrics of the song. There's so much in here that I love. À ceux, to those. So already this is a fairly complicated concept, and this is the thing, I teach Stromae all the time in my French classes. I want this to be stuck in their head. À ceux qui n'en ont pas. So to them, who, okay, this is the subject, who, this is serving as the subject of the sentence. It doesn't mean who like a question, it means who serving as the subject. Do not have. But then we have on, which represents a part of something. It's like a partitive pronoun. It means of it, essentially, in English. We don't have an equivalent. So the whole thing is about santé, to those who don't have any of it. That is what is implied in this non, on, pas. The pronunciation of it is difficult, but this is a great example, and I will be using this with my students. Non, non, pas, to those who do not have any of it. This is how this very frustrating word works in French. If we celebrated those who do not celebrate, so we see a repetition of ceux, you know, those who. Again, this is the difference between chanson and other forms of music. Chanson is very dedicated to ceux, those who, other people, kind of a third person omniscient view of the world. Those who. If we celebrated those who do not celebrate. I like this for a couple reasons. One, whenever you have a suggestion like this, a polite suggestion, use the imperfect, which is what they use here. Here is the present tense of the same verb, to celebrate. Another thing that I teach is the importance of accents and pronunciation. Look at how the accent on the E changes. That's just a pronunciation thing. Célébrer, célèbre. That's how accent grave and accent aigu works. For point of reference, in my classes, I call accent aigu accent Beyoncé, accent Pokemon, accent Kanye, because that's the accent there. Just beautiful there. And then finally, for my more advanced French students, this is a quote from the person who is talking to the maid and mad that it isn't cleaner. Dans une heure je reviens, in an hour I come back. And then here he's using the subjunctive. So what's implied in here is il faut que. It is necessary that. I demand that. Subjunctive is not a tense, it's a mode, okay? But it's a mode of speech, and in this case, it's for a demand. Que ce soit propre, that it be clean. Qu'on puisse y manger, that we can eat. En is one of these tricky pronouns that's hard to place. Y is another. In Spanish it means and, but in French it means there, that we can eat there. So that we can eat on the floor. Pour qu'on puisse y manger. These are two different kinds of irregular subjunctives, and if you're at home and you're learning French, just memorize this line. You'll be able to learn a lot and memorize a lot of the subjunctive. Part of the reason I love Stromae is his perfectionism. Because he's a perfectionist, he doesn't sing in English. His English is better than my French, but he thinks that his English is bad. And this is a great example of this perfectionism. So Stromae's back. grâce à Dieu, je ne sais pas. Let's go? That's a stupid thing to say. Anyways, okay, I gotta stop making videos every day. I have a life to get to. Here's the camera.